Chiswa Mahopeni with them there. So we're going to take you there right now. It's over to you in the Metro FM studio, Leanne.
"18 after 8, this is Fresh Breakfast on Metro FM. We are joined by Morning Live this morning to talk about a brand new TV and elections and 25 years of democracy baby. Her name is Democracy Gage.
Yeah, I'm
Leanne,
glad that you're making her a female, because it's a good thing, because I'm hoping she is a female. She's fast, she's steady, she's reliable, and she tells the truth.
Generally, you guys deliver better than we do.
I hope so.
Also joining us is SABC GE for News, Patiswa Magopeni. Patiswa, good morning, welcome.
Good morning, Jay Fresh, and good morning to Metro FM listeners and all our television viewers.
In fact, I can welcome them as well, because we're officially live on Morning Live as well. So here we go again, joining radio, joining television, only at the SABC, and that's what that makes this so incredible. We've walked across from the television studios, and we are now live on Morning Live and Metro FM. This is fantastic.
I think first things first, let's talk about the concept of this TV show. Please, take us through that journey.
The concept is fundamentally based on our social justice approach to our news coverage. And considering that we're marking the 25 years of democracy in the country, and we thought that it's necessary that we do this kind of a show. Yes, it coincides with our election year, but the reality is this is a show that we should have launched beginning January. And as a result, as we launch this show, it's going to run from today till the end of the year. So it's not a show that's specifically targeted at elections, even though it's starting before elections. It's basically to mark the 25 years of democracy. And in the way it's designed, unlike the fact that we are meant to be the voice of the South African public as a public news service, what we're doing now is to hand over the mic to South Africans and the camera to South Africans for them to express their own voices, their lived experiences, to talk about the quality of the democracy and how they've experienced the 25 years.
Yeah. You know, what's important is, and this is what I need to ask you, is because we've been talking to independents, we've been talking to being an impartial broadcaster. When we give the mic over to South Africans, are we getting their honest views? I mean, this is not obviously, and some people say, you know, being the voice of the ruling party. I mean, is that what we stand for? Is that not what SABC stands for?
Our mandate is very clear, and if you look at the regulatory framework that talks to our purpose and our existence, our editorial independence is non-negotiable. There's no ambiguity in that space. And part of what we are meant to do is to ensure plurality in our coverage. And that means to the diversity of the voices that we should bring into our coverage. And it also talks to inclusivity. Yes. And as you will see in these stories and in these profiles, there's going to be that man who lives under the bridge. And there's going to be that guy who's leading a company that's listed on the JSE. So you are going to see the plurality and the inclusivity that's going to come through in this storytelling. And in fact, what you're going to see, it's also the fact that these voices are unmediated, unrestrained, and it's their voices that are coming through. No one is telling their story. It's their story being told by themselves.
In fact, often the biggest complaint is exactly that the voices you hear of those that can afford to listen to talk radio, those that can afford to buy a paper, but your average person is never part of the narrative. We speak about employment, but we never have unemployed people there, for instance. So I think the fact that we're taking cameras to the people, taking microphones to the people, is a good start.
Yeah, it is. I mean, listen, from what I know, I mean, I've been working on elections for many, many years with the SABC, and it's not the first time we've done something like this. I mean, we've often gone to the people, we've spoken to them, and the power of the SABC is the fact that we do have the facilities to go out into the remotest area in South Africa and utilize that. So, if I may, the difference from previous year's election coverage to what we're doing now, what is it? Is there a difference?
The difference is that our focus is on the citizen. So basically what the show is about, it's about what the citizen needs, the quality and the credibility of information that the citizens need to make up their minds about who becomes the sixth administration or who leads the sixth administration. It's not our job as a public news service to determine that. And we'll leave it to South Africans, having given them comprehensive information and credible information for them to make that decision. And also, We are not going to tell South Africans how to think. South Africans know how to do that for as long as they have the right information.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we already saw a couple of newspaper headlines. You can see we're in election mode. We really are. I mean, front page of the City Press, taking on the SABC and the ANC, and this controversial supposed meeting, and the ANC coming out saying that they wanted a meeting with the SABC. But the question is why. So anyway, I mean, I would love to get your response to all of this. I'm sure a lot of the listeners and viewers...
Was there a meeting?
Yeah, what happened?
That has been confirmed. The meeting was there.
Yes.
And it was known it's not a secret meeting that took place. But what I want to clear, even though I'm not going to respond to the content of the meeting, in the way we operate as a newsroom and in the way we discuss our editorial issues, I mean, there's no one person in our newsroom who has authority editorially. It's a group of editors who discuss things robustly, and at times we get aggressive in the way we discuss things. So this is the nature of our decision-making architecture in the newsroom. What actually happens is the fact that we leave no room for speculation, leave no room for suspicion by being transparent in your decision-making as editors. And also the fact that our currency as a public news service comes from being trustworthy. And we need to ensure that we are transparent in our decision-making process.
Is it not a slippery slope when we allow these meetings to happen, where people demand meetings, they demand explanations?
The meeting was not demanded.
Yes.
It was requested. We engaged with various stakeholders, especially during this period. I mean, already, outside the fact that there was a meeting that was requested, we are doing countrywide engagements with political stakeholders and the IEC in the process to talk about our elections coverage and our approach, actually, to elections. So when things like these come up, they are not outside the norm.
Okay.
But what we cannot entertain, it's complaints. They are mechanisms to deal with complaints around unfair coverage. ICASA is there to do that. And outside the election period, or anything that's non-election related, is dealt with by the BCCSA.
I suppose I have to ask, I mean, will you be meeting with other political parties? I mean, if the EFF, the DA, the UDM want to meet with you, are you happy and open?
No, if they do ask, we will give them the chance. But there are mechanisms to deal with complaints.
Okay.
25 minutes after 8, this is Fresh Breakfast and SABC 2's Morning Live. Leanne Manasseh is in the building. We're talking about a brand new show going live on SABC 3 later today. It's called Democracy Gauge. And the other voice you heard is SABC GE for News, Patiswa Magopeni.
So I suppose the starting point for all of this is we've got Democracy Gauge, we've got this new program. What's it all about? So I know we take the mic to people, but I also see that there's this thing. Obviously, the Morning Live viewers can see it, but the listeners can't. What happens is, I imagine after you've interviewed everybody, you give them this little gauge to hold up, whether it's green, red or yellow. What are we trying to get at here? What's that all about?
It is a gauge. It's more like a traffic light system.
Okay.
So you have a green, yellow and red. So those who would feel like things have gone well for me, and it's an individual determination, they would say the color is green. And for those who feel that things haven't worked out at all, they would say red. And those who are in the middle who say this part has worked, but that other part hasn't worked, they will say yellow, which is more like we need to take more caution in the way we do things.
Yeah, I love it. But this is just the start of an election campaign that is going to get faster and faster and steal more and more airtime. Because, I mean, now we're talking half an hour, but eventually, are we going to get to the point over those days when we go out voting and the elections get closer and closer? I mean, is the SABC going to kick into that 24-hour mode of bringing the results as and when they come in and all of that stuff? I mean, I know that there's so much more to happen, but I suppose the public need to know what is up our sleeve going forward.
This is the first phase of our elections coverage that we're talking about here. There is going to be a second phase, which is the intense phase, where we get to explain all the programs that are going to be taking place and the projects that are going to be rolled out. We know that there's going to be your town halls, there's going to be imbizos, there's going to be town rank, taxi rank discussions with various people in those spaces. So what we're basically doing is to amplify the voices that you wouldn't ordinarily get in our news coverage and make sure that they're elevated and they're mainstreamed in our coverage. And part of that includes what we are launching today, our elections website. It's sabcnews.com/elections. So what you're going to get there, you can check whether you're registered or not and where you are going to be voting, and you can get a a lot about the latest coverage in terms of our news coverage elections, and you can get a lot about our podcasts that talk to our radio coverage of elections. So there's a lot of stuff that you're going to get there. And the Democracy Gauge itself, it's sitting in that elections website.
Democracy Gauge will be hosted by the one, the only Bongani Bingwa. Why Bongani Bingwa? I love him personally. I approve. But I just want to know from your side, why did you guys go with Bongani?
Because he can.
Yes.
And basically what we're looking for a person, not that we don't have that capacity. We do have that capacity, but it's engaged elsewhere.
Yes.
So we needed a person who's going to be as frank and as courageous as possible in dealing with the issues. It's going to cause discomfort, and that's exactly what we need to do. And if part of our mandate is to strengthen and enhance our democracy, we need critical watchdog journalism. And that's what we're looking for.
In fact, we come from a recent past where we were accused of being mouthpieces. There was accusations of interference. Are we winning that perception battle? Have we clawed our way back to saying, listen, we are independent?
In terms of public trust, that's exactly what we are aiming for. We want to make sure that our public trusts what we do. And editorial interference happens at various stages. It's not only political interference. It's commercial interference, it's NGOs interfering, and it's all sorts of things that we can think of that you wouldn't ordinarily see being spoken of as editorial interference. We are working in that space. We are not a government mouthpiece, and this is clear in our regulatory framework. And we are not a state broadcaster. We are a public news service, and that's what we exist for, primarily for the South African.
You mentioned something, and as we wrap this up, and I think Fresh, you'll be just as excited as I am. I don't know what you were saying, but when we were walking in here, you said, you know, there's also an app that's going to be released. Now it just brought butterflies to my stomach. An SABC News app? Is that what you're talking about? I mean, is that finally going to happen?
Okay, the cat is out of the bag.
Yes.
Clearly. It was going to be part of our, in fact, it remains part of our second phase in rolling out our elections coverage. But that's one project that's going to outlive this period. Yes, there is an app that's coming.
Can we get an amen, Fresh?
Amen,
amen,
sisters.
finally.
When do we watch Democracy Gauge? What time, where?
The show itself, it's at 5:30, starting this evening on SABC3 and SABC News Channel. And by the way, it's not channel 404, it's the SABC News Channel. That's where it's going to be sitting. But across our platforms, the radio stations, our digital platforms, all the profiles and the stories are going to be sitting there. So everybody has access to them.
It's exciting. It really is. So we've hit 5:30, and there's one thing we do in common, I imagine, Fresh, is we get the news headlines at this time, right?
In fact, news headlines and sports update are coming up next. Leanne, thank you so much.
Always. Love it. Thank you,
Love and respect for you, as always. And to our guest this morning, SABC GE4 News, Patiswa Magopeni. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for hosting me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Metro FM is where you are at.